Shalom, I'm Rabbi Stephen Sachs. Moshe, don't worry about the Wi-Fi passcode. Tazriya Metzora 5780. If a boy is born and the 8th day happens to be Shabbat, of course, we still go ahead and do the Brit Milah, the bris, the circumcision. You could ask the question, why? How can this be? After all, the cutting we need to do to perform the bris involves malachot, labors which are forbidden on Shabbat. So the Talmud on Shabbat points to a pasuk, a verse, which appears in the Parsha, which says, Uveyom Shmini Yumol Basa Orlato. On the 8th day, the flesh of the foreskin shall be circumcised. The word Uveyom, meaning and the day, the 8th day, indicates that whatever day of the week it happens to be, even if it's Shabbat, even if it's Yom Kippur for that matter, it's the 8th day, still the mitzvah is to go ahead and perform the circumcision. There's another question which is also germane to our Parsha, which the Talmud addresses. It says, Chas v'sholom, you have a baby who has sarat on the foreskin. Now let me explain what sarat is. Sarat is a spiritual malady which in appearance is similar to leprosy, and it's believed that the word psoriasis may actually come from sarat. We say saras in Ashkenazic Hebrew. You could hear it sounds like psoriasis. But it's actually forbidden by halacha to try to cut off these patches of discoloration. If you have something that you think is sarat, you'd actually, in the biblical day, go to the Kohen and he'd diagnose you like a doctor. And if it was indeed sarat, according to his diagnosis, there was a whole ritual of purification you'd have to undergo. But cutting off these patches of discoloration simply was not allowed. However, in the case where a baby, chas v'sholom, has sarat, there we still have to go ahead and do the circumcision, even though we're cutting into the sarat, because as the Talmud points out, doing a bris has the power to save a life. Moshe Rabbeinu learned this one the hard way. We know that God commanded him to return to Metzora, to Egypt, to confront Paro. So he's heading back with his wife, and he happens to have a new baby boy. And on the 8th day of the boy's life, Moshe stops in at an inn, at a hotel, with his family. And we're told, as he's in the hotel, God sought to kill him. Now it's unclear who the him is that God seeks to kill. Is it Moshe or Moshe's new baby son? Let's go with the version in the Talmud which explains that God sought to kill Moshe. So the Talmud actually says that God himself didn't go into the hotel to kill Moshe. He sent his henchmen, 2 avenging angels. One whose name was Af, which means anger, and the other was Chema, which means wrath. So these 2 avenging angels actually were swallowing up Moshe, and they swallowed him up almost entirely. And Zipporah, Moshe's wife, realized that the reason why Moshe was being attacked and swallowed, literally devoured by these angels, was because he had not yet circumcised his son. It was the 8th day he was supposed to circumcise his son. They hadn't done it. So therefore Zipporah, in order to save Moshe's life, circumcises her son on the spot. As soon as she performs the Brit Milah, the circumcision, these 2 henchmen, these 2 angels, release Moshe, and she saved Moshe's life. Now, regardless of who is actually being attacked, was it really Moshe? Was it Moshe's son who was being attacked? Regardless, the fact that the Brit Milah, the circumcision was performed, saved a life. Moshe's life, his son's life, we don't know, but a life was certainly saved. So now the Talmud says, in light of this, in light of the fact that clearly Brit Milah, performing a bris, is a tremendous mitzvah, it saved either Moshe or Moshe's son's life, how could it be that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher of all people, failed to circumcise his son on the 8th day, and his wife had to step in and do it at the last minute to save a life? Well, the Talmud says, let's not be overly harsh on poor Moshe here. He was going to do it on the 8th day, but it points to a verse in the Torah regarding the narrative, and it says, Vayehi v'derech b'malon. It was on the way in the lodging. Emphasizes the word here, b'malon, in the lodging here. Says that the word lodging is being emphasized to show that Moshe was not concerned on the 8th day primarily of performing the bris. He was going to get around to it later on when he wasn't busy. What was he really concerned with? He was concerned with the accommodation, the lodging. Was the bed firm enough? Did he have the Wi-Fi passcode? Maybe he wanted to watch a Netflix and settle in. So what the Talmud is teaching us is Moshe shouldn't have been so concerned with the accommodations. What he should have been concerned about was circumcising his son, performing this very important mitzvah. In other words, the message here is we should be zlizim l'maktimim ha-mitzvot. We should be eager to perform the mitzvot as soon as possible. You could circumcise a child anytime during daylight hours, but when are circumcisions often done? In the morning, because we're eager to perform the mitzvah. We want to perform the mitzvah quickly, so therefore we do it as soon as possible in the morning. So that's message one. There's also a second message here. Is the performance of mitzvot can help us to heal. Even though the baby has sarat, we still perform the mitzvah because we believe the mitzvah could be curative. After all, just ask Moshe, saved either his life or his son's life. Now in our case here, we've been quarantined for quite a while. The Metzora, the person who had sarat, was only quarantined for 7 days. We've been quarantined now, it's going on a month at this point. You may be feeling lonely, certainly not easy to be confined in a small space. Many people are alone or only seeing a very limited amount of people, immediate family. If you're feeling lonely, think about someone who you haven't spoken to in a while. Call them up. Maybe they're lonely too. The message the Talmud is teaching us here is a message of hope, and that is through positive actions, the performance of mitzvot, yes, we can overcome suffering.